I can tell this is already going to be a problem for the mic. Oh, and now my earrings. And, okay. It's very complex. Oh, let's see that other slide. Mm-hmm. Oh, I hope there's no... Oh, there it is. Take a good look. The people on this side are clergy, and at this moment they are praying, and they're all on a beach. There's the ocean. You can even see part of the wall that goes out into the ocean. And those are other people who are trying to maintain a border. The woman in the middle with her hands outstretched, that's my friend Sarah. This photo was taken earlier this week because many of my colleagues left the comfort of their parishes, left the safety of their pulpit. They left their sermon writing. They left their books and their favorite mugs. They left all the other things that ministers love. They're really just like cats. They left that comfort. They left the comfort of their homes and their families, and they traveled to Southern California to place themselves in proximity to injustice. They went right up to the border of our country to see the concertina wire and the Border Patrol agents holding military weapons by order of our highest officers. Right into the place that we are being told that there's so much danger that we need to send more soldiers, more weapons. These clergy sent themselves in their robes and their stoles. They stood, they knelt, they prayed, they witnessed. They made their bodies inconvenient for the injustice that is being perpetuated on our behalf. They sent their prayers over the border to the other side where there are people who wish to seek asylum. And then, as they prayed, the people who work as border agents knocked them down and used zip ties to secure their wrists behind their backs and detained or arrested about 30 of them. My heart is sore when I think of Sarah's delicate wrists restrained behind her back. I worry and I am not comforted when I think of her clothing, her stole made muddy as she was dragged into custody. But I wasn't there because I was here with my books and my nice mug of tea. Does that make me a bad minister? I mean, there was so much injustice in this world. What was I doing? Reading books and sipping tea. Where was I to begin? There's the danger that I will do nothing because I have just become so inured to the injustice done on a daily basis through my entire life on my behalf, in my name. I mean, when I was a child, villages in distant countries were bombed to keep me safe. When I was a young adult, Democratically elected officials in other countries were assassinated by people who were paid with my tax money. And then my taxes were cut, but teachers now have to work 2 jobs. All of this has been going on my entire life. So it's really easy to see how I might just take a deep cleansing breath, another sip of tea, and just carry on placidly. It's easy to understand how I might just come to accept that I am powerless to change much of the world around me. I might be tempted to see or think that the arc of justice is just not going to bend much during my lifetime. That is a danger. But I am not going to accept it with any ease. While my colleagues were praying across concertina wire, I learned that right here in Potter County, the infant mortality rate is several times higher than the rest of the state, higher than the national average, and all that they can really link it to is poverty. So do I look away from the border and look at my neighbors? Do I stay here and serve soup and make blankets, or do I go upstream and try and figure out who in the hell is tossing babies in the river? At the service we held a couple weeks back for the Transgender Day of Remembrance, if you were here, you saw it. If you weren't here, let me say it was a gift that we gave to our transgender community and allies. During the service, I learned that a young trans person here in Amarillo died by suicide this past year. And I watched as this person's community grieved this loss. And I listened to their keen fear that others in this community might be so moved in the face of ongoing hatred and fear. What could I do? Where to begin? I began by giving one young trans person a hug. I held that person and told them that they matter and that their courage is important. I did what I could with what I had where I was. I placed my body in proximity to their fear, their pain. I placed my body nearby in solidarity, in love. With the words of the mystic Rumi printed in your order of service, my heart is so small, it's almost invisible. How can you place such big sorrows in it? Look, he answered. Your eyes are even smaller, and yet they behold the world. Does my not going to the border make me a bad minister? Maybe. But I really hope that it's not an either-or situation. I'm hoping that it's a both-and situation. Right? A lot of times we're tricked into thinking it's either-or when it can be both-and. Yes, there are the times where we have to start yelling in order to draw attention to the awfulness. And there are the times when we have to pour the tea and sit still and listen to what another person has to say. Both and. As Universalists, we are a people who reject the idea of damnation in any afterlife that may or may not be waiting. But we do recognize that there is plenty of hell and damnation. It's just right here and right now, not there and then. And so I hold with the Reverend Joanna Crawford that the work of our movement, the work of being Unitarian Universalist or attempting to be Unitarian Universalist, our work is to love the hell out of this world. I believe that it's going to be love that grounds us again and again as we work to love the hell out of this world. And sometimes we will shout, and sometimes we will whisper, but each time it will be in love. This is critically important to remember right now, because right now a lot of the world is very busy being angry all the time, right? And anger is good. Anger is cathartic. But it's a really weird state to try and live in. Right? And right now it's so easy to stay angry all the time, because all you have to do is just read the newspaper, turn on the television, scroll through some social media, and wham, there it is. Another reason to be angry. Pay attention to this pattern. Go look outside. Notice that gravity is still in effect. The wind still blows. The grass is seasonally appropriately brown. Nature is not angry. Pay attention that when you turn to anything that depends upon catching and holding your attention, generally so that they can pass some advertising in front of you, notice that the two quickest emotions that can be caught are either nurturance or anger. Right? And nurturance, that's what, the cute kids, the puppies, the kittens, that nurturance instinct. And then anger, which is, the absolutely awful, the infuriating, the unjust, which in some ways means that the entire range of our human emotions are being dumbed down for the sake of advertising. We're being exploited. Our anger is being exploited. Think about that. The next time you're feeling angry, pay attention. Why am I feeling angry? How did I get here? Who might have made some money off of my being angry? And notice, how do you feel 10 minutes later? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling empowered? Are you feeling resolve? Or are you feeling isolated, hopeless, overwhelmed? How might this go differently? I suggest, as always, that you start where you are, with what you have, but don't go it alone. It's a whole lot easier if you have good people with you along for the journey. I'm bringing this up because this afternoon the Board of Trustees will be meeting at 12:30, and they have a lovely agenda. But one of the things on their agenda to discuss will be considering if the fellowship should focus its social action gaze and work in one specific direction for a while. Instead of looking at all the brokenness, what if we should look the steady gaze in one area and find all the ways that we might participate, learn the history of this injustice, examine how we are perpetuating it, examine the multiple ways that it can be addressed. What might happen if we just choose to love the hell out of one specific corner of the world for a specific time? I made the suggestion. I'll tell you more. if we focus like this, there would be a lot of different ways to participate. Some of us might go and place our bodies in proximity to the injustice, or protest, or mentoring, or driving somebody where they need to go, or accompanying somebody. We might place our bodies in proximity and in solidarity with those who are suffering from the injustice. Some of us might choose to sit down and study and do a deep study of the history, of the complexity of the situation, and the multiple ways of creating change. Some of us might have money that we can put towards bending that arc of the universe towards justice. The thing would be, we would do it all together as a congregation. Everybody find their way that works for them. Participate. I'm looking forward to hear, because hopefully board members have been talking with members of the congregation. Hopefully members of the congregation have been listening and suggesting. And I want you to know, when the board meeting starts, it starts at 12:30, but at 12:15, anybody can come and speak directly to the board. And anybody can sit and watch the board work. They're lovely people doing great work. I'm looking forward to hearing if anybody's told them where we should start turning our focused attention. Maybe we should focus on environmental injustice or reproductive justice. Maybe education. Maybe immigration. Maybe it's time to start the work of dismantling white supremacy culture right here and then being good neighbors. The board's going to need input from members so that they'll be able to make a recommendation to the Social Action Committee on where to focus our efforts for the next year. And then we'll need to start the work of educating ourselves first, because you can't go change the world until you change yourself a little bit. And we'll have to do the work of an inventory of our actual resources. Where is our energy? What do we have? But here are some very important resources that I think we're going to need to bring with us. Integrity, respect, and agency. I know in other pulpits this morning, they're talking about faith, hope, and charity. I'm going to say integrity, respect, and agency. Integrity, meaning that we're going to seek to act in a way that is consistent with our stated mission and principles, so that we can bring our integrated selves to the work. Respect. We will need to access, we'll need to draw upon our deep reserves of respect, the reserves that spring up from our understanding of the inherent worth and dignity of each person. And agency. We need to remind ourselves over and over that we do have agency. We do have agency, and we can act out of our own agency, and we can work to make sure that others have access to their agency. What I mean by agency is, I mean the right to speak up, the right to be heard, and the right to carry out what is better for your and our survival. Integrity, respect, agency. Why isn't faith, hope, and charity enough? They're good. They're good. They're needed, but they're not enough. Faith, hope, and charity are not enough to challenge systemic injustice. All injustice, individual and systemic, is rooted in fear and greed, and just trying to uproot that fear and greed with faith, hope, and charity, that they're not enough. To make the really radical, and by radical I mean rooted, changes, we're going to need to ground our hope in respect. We're going to need to examine our charity to make sure that we are acting with integrity. We'll need to work to shift just from faith into actual agency and courage, so that the deep work here and there can begin. So, if we were the people in the village, which, by the way, we are, the village by the river, what would you vote for us to do? Stay here and keep catching the babies. Don't let a single one go by. Or send some of our Reeses upstream. Notice that it's posed as an either or. I like to think it can be a both and. But here, I love that no one in the village has said, well, let's just put a fence across the river and keep all those unwanted babies out. Nobody in the village says, well, let's just dig a canal, divert part of the with a fence upstream, so we just have our water, and the rest of the river, I don't care about it. But I have to disagree with the villagers who want to have it be an either or. It's a both and situation. You can send some people upstream to find out what's going on. You can send some people downstream to say, we're going to need your help. You can care for the vulnerable, and you can go find out what is causing the problem, okay? But it's easier if we do it together. Because this is what love looks like. And whatever we choose to do, we're going to do it together as a way of loving the hell out of this world. Maybe so. And blessed be.